Hi, it's Laura Morley here, and I want to welcome you to Toddler Talk TV. This is a place where you can get inspiration and ideas to be able to help you to enjoy the parenting journey with your toddler. And today we're going to be talking to Wick Nixon. I first met Wick when she came and spoke at our toddler parenting workshops. And it's no wonder that her workshop was one of the most popular out of all of the workshops on that day. Her passion and her enthusiasm for food comes through not only in her interview today, but in everything she does. She's got a cookbook and a kitchen club and an incredible following online. I know that you're going to find some really useful tips in her interview today. She's going to be sharing with you the right amount of food you should be giving your toddler at dinner time. She's going to give you some tips of how to get vegetables into their day, and if they don't like eating fruit, then how you can hide it, and different strategies and things that you can use to help with getting your toddler to be more healthy. Her area of genius is in revolutionising your child's lunchbox. So she's going to be sharing some of her top tips to be able to show you how to replace chips, biscuits and other things in your child's lunchbox that you might want to make a little bit more healthy. Don't forget to scroll onto our blog and have a look, because you're going to find on there a discount code. It's only going to be lasting for 2 weeks. So if you want to grab her cookbook, then now's the time to do it. But for now, sit back and relax and enjoy hearing from Wick. Hello, Wick. It's so lovely to have you on Toddler Talk NZ today. And I'm really excited about what we have ahead, because I know that there are so many parents that are absolutely going to love your passion for food and your really practical ideas. So before we get into talking about your cookbook and the other things that you've done, I'd love to hear a typical day of something that happens in your day and the things that you do. I know that you have some kids, so I'm sure they keep you really busy. And what happens in your day?
Thanks, Laura. It's really exciting to be here. So yes, I do have some kids. I have 3 of them, and they are 11, 9 and 7. So absolutely, they definitely keep us on our toes. So my husband actually leaves pretty early to go to work, and he always often is home late. So I'm pretty much the primary caregiver and running a business at the same time, but I do have that flexibility. So for me, a normal day, well, I'm a very early riser. Luckily, I'm a morning person. So generally I wake up between 5 and 5:30, and that's when my day starts. And that's when I get my exercise in. So I will either go to the gym, or depending on the weather, I'll go for a run or a walk, or if my husband's got an early morning meeting, I'll do some power hooping at home, which is a weighted hula hoop. And for me, exercise is absolute key. I have to for my sanity. And it is I have tried to meditate, and I used to. For 9 months I meditated, and I really want to get back into it. But actually I know for myself that exercise is my meditation. And that is what keeps me going. It boosts my serotonin levels, starts me off in a really good level for the day, which then follows throughout. Depending on what I'm trying to achieve, a day might look, and this is not a setup, but this morning I made this quinoa chocolate brownie because my kids have absolutely demolished it, and they all were like, "Mum, can you please make some more?" So they went out the door to walk to school. Luckily they can walk, my son bikes, and I've got the quinoa chocolate brownie in the oven. And then I'm generally in the office from 9 till 3, and then I'm fastidious about lunch breaks and having a few other breaks, but I am a very dedicated and committed person in terms of achieving what my goals are. So that's generally, kids get home about 3, and then I'm on kid routine. We're doing after school activities, we are doing homework or whatever it might be, and then I might do an hour or so in the evenings back at the desk. My absolute passion is cooking. I could cook all day long, but there's also the behinds of running a business, which actually, need to be done as well.
Absolutely. So your business is Wicked Wellbeing. So how did you come about starting your business? Because obviously before you said, I think you were doing graphic art and you were a designer and stuff.
Yes.
how on earth did you come from, being a designer and then
Yes.
morphing into this food passion that you've now made into not just a hobby, but a business?
Yes. Well, so I've always been really passionate about cooking ever since a young girl. I grew up on a farm, and my brother and sister were always out on the farm helping Dad, and I was always in the kitchen. He had no interest in being on the farm at all. But yes, you're right, I was a graphic designer, and I still am, so I still do everything myself. But I just didn't believe that I could create a business out of my passion. So my design business was called Wick Design. And then, so I didn't wake up one day and go, actually, I'm going to start a big business called Wicked Wellbeing, and it's going to be in the food industry. It has morphed, but after getting some coaching, I found that I actually could create a business from what my passion was. And so that's how it is. That's how it was created. And I've always been interested in health. I've tried every diet under the sun. I have, if you ask my friends what I was doing when we were growing up, it was either I was doing, a weight loss, or I was doing the blood group diet, or I was doing this or that. And then I found gluten-free, because I obviously always had a gluten intolerance, but gluten-free is what works for me. And then it's just, how healthy can I make it?
Yeah.
And so my mission is healthy eating made easy. That's just what I want to achieve for people.
I think it's fantastic that you've even been on TV and, been interviewed about some of the programs that you've done. And I know that you've written a book. So do you want to tell us a little bit about how that book came about and how it's going to help us as mums and dads to really inject some more healthy food into our kids' diets?
Absolutely. So my business has only been going for about 16 months, and to start that off, I created a program which was called the 21-Day Marvellous Lunchbox Makeover, which is a free program that parents could sign up to and receive 21 days of healthy recipes and tips into their inbox because if you go to school and you look at kids' lunchboxes, packaged foods, unrecognisable foods is just absolutely all over. And I wanted to get away, and also, daycare centres, kindergartens, that type of thing. And I wanted to get parents away from that because I knew how much it affects children's learning, how much it affects their performance on the sports field, how much it affects their concentration. And if I could show parents easily how to do that, that's what I really wanted to achieve. So I started this 21-day, thought I'd have about 50 people sign up to it. Holy smoke, had no idea that I had tapped into such a, the biggest pain point for parents is doing lunches. So I then took that story to the Herald on Sunday, and they were doing a lot of publicity around school lunchboxes and, earlier toddler and lunchboxes as well. So they ran a feature on it. And then I also was in the Hawke's Bay today because that's originally where I'm from, and then got a 5-minute slot on the breakfast show. And literally it was my tenacity to just ask for that and offer it, and if they were interested in it, and luckily they were. So I've had about 6,500 parents that have gone through that program. So that exposure alone was huge, Laura.
Wow, that's really impressive.
Yeah. And then I had parents who were asking me if I was going to put it into a cookbook, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I can do that. So I self-published it into a soft cover cookbook, and it just sells so well. What it is I get the feedback that my recipes are really easy, they are achievable, but the kids really enjoy them with that healthy twist on them. So they're away from additives, preservatives, and refined sugars. And one really cool thing that happened at the end of last year was I entered this in a international cookbook award called the Gourmand Cookbook Food Awards. And I won the Best Food and Family Cookbook for New Zealand, which I found out on my birthday on the 27th of December, which was really cool. And then just recently, actually it was at the end of the month of May, I was just looking at the clock, I went into the world title. So I don't know if I won a title for the world but I'll be looking forward to hearing. So that was amazing, absolutely amazing. Just
Yeah, absolutely.
feedback. Yeah.
It must be a really good feeling to feel like you're making such a difference. And I feel like personally that I can completely relate to your story. I remember on Facebook that you put how, your children complained about the fact that their lunch boxes weren't like everybody else's at school, and my kids have definitely come home and said, Mum, why have I not got chips in my lunchbox like everybody else?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, we have chips for parties, and the kids get that now, but it has definitely been like a mind shift for our family.
Yes.
I know this is actually, the culture of what we're going to do. And I know that it does take a bit of effort, but I feel like with your recipes and your ideas, you kind of have streamlined it so it doesn't feel like it's a big effort. And so I find that quite easy. And I think, as mums and, parents, we're just so busy that, we don't want to have another thing added to our to-do list. And I think the thing around like toddler food is a really big thing. I think that there's a lot of us that really struggle with getting our toddler to eat healthy food. I'm just wondering how it went with your kids. What was your biggest challenge when it came to feeding your kids when they were toddlers?
Well, I'll have you know that my son used to only eat spaghetti.
Oh, no.
And that's when I had it in the house. Now we don't even have spaghetti in the house just because of, I would prefer to create things from scratch, and they don't actually have a healthy version of spaghetti out there. So I stressed out a lot about the fact that he only ate spaghetti. But when I look back, it's just something that he was a really, healthy, energetic, smiley, wouldn't stop smiling little boy. And what you have to realize, and what I say to a lot of parents, is it's what they eat over a period of time and not focusing on that certain meal.
Okay.
Because we were talking about it, before we started the interview, and you're saying that parents are having issues with the kids aren't eating. And I just want them to ask themselves, is it that particular meal that they're not eating, or is it they're not eating at all? Because if they're not eating at all, then that's an issue. But if they're having a really good breakfast, lunch, snacks, then it's okay. And just know that it's going to get better. And also for toddlers, finger food obviously is huge, but give them the power and give them the choice. So here, have a carrot, or here, have a cucumber or celery or whatever it is, but give them two options and then ask them to choose, because then they feel in control. But as long as the options are healthy,
right,
then that's going to make a difference.
Yeah.
There's also, I made a dish last night, and it was, vegetable, or it had meat in it, but in the meatballs, it had grated carrot, grated beetroot, and then, fresh herbs. And you could even put some spinach in there as well. But I had the spinach in the sauce, in the tomato-based sauce. But, there's ways that you can get vegetables into the kids that they can't. I know there's kids that have got an eye for absolutely everything. But there are ways that you can hide vegetables and goodness into your food.
Absolutely.
The other thing is, my daughter doesn't eat fruit. Cannot fathom it, but I can get an apple into her at a push. But, I don't have perfect kids. My kids do not eat absolutely everything. And I think that's why people like what I do, is because I'm real and I'm going through the same stuff that you guys are going through. But I can, in a smoothie, I can get a banana, berries, feijoas, kiwi fruit. She'll go out to the garden, she'll pick some spinach and put all of that, chia seeds, nuts, into a smoothie, and there's her daily intake. So I don't actually mind what she eats over the rest, or, if she's not eating any fruit over the rest of the day. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So
I think that's a great idea. And something I've done with my kids, and something I've talked to my clients about, and it's working really well for them, is that you can also mix it up by actually pouring the smoothie stuff into ice block molds. And then they can have an ice block as well. So it's not always just the same old. You can kind of
That's exactly right.
And they think, I'm getting a treat because I'm getting an ice block. Well, really, it's just moolied up a whole lot of vegetables or fruit and a whole lot of goodness, and they feel like they're getting a treat, but really they are getting a treat, and also it's healthy at the same time.
Well, so I made my daughter a smoothie once, I remember, and she was like, yuck, Mum, I don't, similar stuff that what she normally has, but just didn't like it. I don't know. And then so I poured it into, molds for an ice block and gave it to her the next morning. She's like, Mum, this is beautiful.
Yes.
Didn't change a thing.
Yeah.
Random. They're such random creatures.
I know. Well, that's just the fickle nature of toddlers, is that, the breeze blows and 1 minute they're one way and the next minute they're feeling something else. And I think we can often get drawn into these kind of food battles where,
Yes.
we start to negotiate at dinner time and we say, okay, if you eat, this particular piece of food, then I'll let you have, yogurt or, something else. And we kind of start to get into this bribery thing. And I just wondered what you thought of how you actually can tackle that when you've got a kid who's just refusing to eat stuff at dinner time.
Well, number one rule, don't offer anything else unless it's a piece of fruit.
Okay.
For me, so Laura, this is my personal belief. It's not beyond end all, but it's what works for me. And I feel in terms of setting them up in good stead for, later years in terms of what they're going to be eating. I hear parents that say, my kids won't eat anything, so then I'll give them some toast, or because I'm scared about them going hungry. So I don't believe you should offer them anything else, and if they're starving, a piece of fruit, which is fine. But also you need to really limit, if they're not eating at dinner time, then limit their afternoon snacks, because if they're filling up at afternoon tea time, then they're not going to be eating, you're not going to be hungry enough. And often with toddlers, you have to make sure that you're feeding them like at 5 o'clock or 5:30, because there is a fine line pushing them over that balance when you've missed that window of opportunity. Yeah.
Oh,
so
I totally agree. We've all been there. It's like this magic window. If you go outside of the window, then they almost get over it, and it's like they're just not hungry anymore, or they're just too tired and grumpy to eat.
Just too tired. And I think also, if we discover that our toddler child might all of a sudden like something, then we will just throw it at them until they just decide they're not eating it anymore because we've overdone it. I mean, I've done it with my husband and pumpkin. He won't eat pumpkin anymore. So it's, and I love pumpkin. So it's a bit the same with young kids. It's just keeping that variety going.
Yeah.
And, we all know 12 to 15 times that kids need to be exposed to be able to then all of a sudden, start eating vegetables. But I just want you to know, and for your listeners, that they do get there. I stressed, and especially being someone who is so passionate about healthy eating, I used to stress out to the max, but they get there because my kids are now all eating vegetables. And it's no matter how, if I hide them or if I just blatantly have them on their plate, they eat them. And so I'm just saying that it's just that constant exposure and just standing strong in what you believe in and not letting your kids control you. You are the adult and you make the decisions. And if they choose not to eat it, then that's their choice, but they won't starve themselves to death.
Yeah, I love that. Something I'm really interested about, and I know this is a question that we got in our Toddler Talk VIP group, which is, our private Facebook group.
Yes.
And for those people who are listening, they're welcome to join that, because we have discussions and we have Q&A Tuesday where people ask questions. And so I said to them, I'm going to be interviewing Wick, and I'd be really interested to know what you'd love to find out about. And a great question came from one of our mums asking about, what is a balanced meal? How do you know that you're giving your kids the right amount when it comes to dinner time, particularly? She was asking about, how much protein versus carbohydrate versus vegetables should be on a toddler's plate.
Brilliant question. And I've got a portable scale that you can have with you, and I've got a formula. So theoretically, a meal should be made up of a quarter of the plate carbohydrates, a quarter of the plate protein, and then half of the plate vegetables and salads, depending on how much salads a child will eat, and then a small amount of healthy fats. Okay, so that's, if you just imagine a pie, a circle, and then quarter, half, with a little bit of circle in the middle, which is your healthy fats. In terms of how much we should be giving, look at your palm, and your palm is how much the size of your protein is. So I think what we do wrong as parents, and gosh, am I guilty of it too, is putting too much on our kids' plate, and then they look at it, their tiny little eyes look at this plate and go, I can't eat that. And then they don't know where to start, so they don't even try. Okay? Yeah. So, but if you think of how little their palm is, that's the size of your protein.
Right.
So can you see my hand? Yep, that's the size of your protein.
Yeah.
Cupped is the size of the carbohydrates. And then 2 fists is the size of the veggies and salads.
Okay.
So that's a really good portable guide to have. And that's the same with us as well as adults. And for a male, it's double.
Oh, okay.
So it's just a really good guideline, because as adults, we would by far eat more protein, I'm sure, than the size of the palm of our hand and the thickness.
Yeah, I think sometimes as parents of toddlers, we're very conscious of getting protein into our kids' diet because we know they're going to sleep through the night. They're less likely, aren't they?
Yes.
They're less likely to wake up hungry at 4 o'clock in the morning. So our natural thing is, lots of parents that I work with still are giving their kids milk before they go to bed and really trying to pump that protein into them at the end of the day in the hope that they'll sleep all night. So I think we can get a little bit out of balance with making sure that those other things are there as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
A really good. Just don't forget that protein sources can be like your leafy green vegetables in a smoothie as well, and your lentils and beans and that type of thing is a really good. So if you're trying to get more protein, it doesn't have to be just in the form of meat. Just use a good quality is better meat, good quality pieces. And use less of it, but bulk it up with some lentils and some beans that they hard to recognise.
Yeah, I love that tip because I think it's cheaper as well, isn't it?
Oh, it's way cheaper.
It's heaps
and
cheaper.
Buy it dried. It's way higher nutritional value, and it's even cheaper. So lentils, if you do like a spaghetti bolognese or a taco dish, as long as you've got chicken stock in it, put some lentils in and cook it for half an hour. And that cooks the lentils and bulks up using less protein in the form of meat, and and then put some grated vegetables in there. Finely grate it. They don't notice.
That sounds fantastic. I really like it. Have you got any tips for lunchtime? Because I know we've often got like lunchtime and snacks on the go. What would be your tips for that? Because I know that our natural thing, as we've talked about, is just to kind of go to the processed food, go to the things that are in packets. And, what's one way that we can kind of shift our thinking and some ideas around lunches and snack times?
Yes, great. My specialty. So the key is to be organised and be prepared, because if you're not, then that's when you grab for the packet foods and you grab for the unhealthy options. So my recommendation is to spend a couple of hours in the weekend and getting some things into the cupboards, into the baking and into the freezer that you can easily pull out. So as an alternative to the sandwiches, you could make, and these are all recipes that are in my cookbook. You can make some ham and cheese or bacon and cheese pizza pinwheels. So just my advice into making things healthier is putting more wholemeal flour instead of all white flour, or using, like in terms of baking, using coconut sugar instead of white sugar, using cacao powder instead of normal cocoa powder, just because they've got a high nutritional value and they'll stabilize the kids' blood sugar levels, so they won't spike
them at the supermarket. Or where do you get them from? Are they available at the supermarket, or do you have to go to a health food store? Or where do you get those alternatives, like the cacao?
So coconut sugars at the supermarket. Most supermarkets have got it. Okay. Health food stores are more so cacao powder.
Okay.
But generally, like obviously wholemeal flour, those, and then I use a med-gill date, which is a plumper date rather than the Indian date that we're used to. It's got a high nutritional value. Again, it's got minerals and vitamins in it. And you can get them from the supermarket. I mean, I could talk about for another hour about all different ingredients.
Right.
And so, and then like, instead of doing a sandwich, like I do for my son many mornings, I toast a wholemeal pita bread. So Danny's does a really good additive preservative one. I toast it and then I let it cool and then I cut it in half and then I put all the salad and the sandwich ingredients into that. He just loves it, absolutely loves it. Or put it in a wholemeal wrap as something different. You could do, instead of putting chips in, get some of the Danny's pita breads again, just slice them up into eighths, put them in the oven at 150 for 15, 20 minutes to allow them to crunch up. And those are chips, but a healthier option. So you make some homemade hummus and that, goes along with that type of thing. And then other things are like bliss balls, that are really good brain food. I've got nut-free bliss balls for the, centres that are nut-free. And, just lots of different options.
Yeah, I love it. I like your idea of just getting a little bit more organised, because I think what often happens is, we can actually find time to do it, but we don't make time. And then suddenly, the morning's upon us and we know that we're going out somewhere, whether it's to our coffee group or we're going out to daycare or, we're busy and we kind of just end up grabbing things out of the pantry. So I think
that's exactly
right. Being organised is a really good one. And I like the idea of having ingredients that you can still kind of get that aren't outside of, the norm of what you'd normally find around the place. Because I think, sometimes you've got to have that stuff in the pantry, you've got to be organised with that as well. So I think those are really, really great tips. So before we finish, I'd love to ask you a final question. And this can be about anything. It doesn't have to be about toddler food, obviously. But what would be your number one tip for growing happy, healthy toddlers?
So just to stay calm and just to believe in the process and know that they are going to turn out okay. Kids, do you know what absolutely astounds me with kids? Is that they are so forgiving, they're so resilient, and they just have undeniable love for you as a parent. And no matter what you do, it doesn't cloud their vision in their mind. So if something happens and you don't feel like the parent that you thought you were going to be, just let it go, because your kids are going to be there for you 24/7 and they just idolize you. And it just blows me away that, obviously every household has arguments. We have arguments, and my daughter can be in such a rage and then 5 minutes later she can just come in for a cuddle. I'm like, wow. It just amazes me. So just be patient, be calm, and just trust in the process that you are doing an amazing job and you're only doing the best that you can.
I love it. Thanks so much. It's a great way to finish our discussion. How do people find you if they want to find out more and maybe be involved in your kitchen club or get on board with some of the programs that you're running? How would they find you?
So I'm very active on Facebook, Wicked Wellbeing on Facebook. I've also got a website, wickedwellbeing.com. And you mentioned the Kitchen Club, which is a 4-week meal plan program where I provide healthy, family-friendly recipes and all the ingredient list and prep ahead tips. And then you just have to buy the ingredients. And I tell you, where you can get them from. I've got a really, really active group going at the moment. They're having amazing success, which is just so exciting. And obviously you can buy my book on my website, and we've got a special 10% discount code, which we are going to share with you and your listeners, and you'll obviously put that code in as a separate link.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for that, because I know that I'm really getting my hands on your book. personally, I'm like, yes, that sounds like something that's going to be the answer for trying to spice up lunch boxes in our household. So I want to say thank you so much for your time, Wick. I know that you're going to be available to answer questions on your Facebook page, so people can go on there if they have questions, or they can contact you through your website. So have a great rest of your day, and thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Laura. It's been a pleasure being here.